Good morning. I'm Kirk Magleby, and unfortunately Jack Welch could not make it this morning, but he sent a terrific substitute, Taylor Halverson, who will be here momentarily, and you're going to love hearing from Taylor. The subject of my presentation is introducing Book of Mormon Central. The first thing you'll notice about Book of Mormon Central is the logo. You've seen this before. Years ago, when we put farms together in 1980, our very first logo was a stylized Hebrew Aleph. And we quickly determined we needed to represent other cultures in addition to just the Hebrew culture that had come into play in the formation of the Book of Mormon. And so we went to the BYU art department and said, here are some of the cultures that we think were important in the formation of the Book of Mormon. Come up with a logo. And there was a contest held, and Jack and I went in, and this was the one that we picked, and that was the farm's logo for many, many years. Taylor, come on up. Yeah, 9 o'clock. Now we're rocking and rolling. This is Taylor Halverson, everyone. Taylor is on the faculty at BYU. He is a consultant to about half the professors at BYU. It's his job to go teach them how to teach more effectively. And he holds 2 PhDs, one in biblical studies and one in learning and teaching technology. Taylor is the third man on the executive committee of Book of Mormon Central. So Jack, myself, and Taylor run this organization. In 1997, President Bateman at BYU initiated a series of events that eventually resulted in 2002 in farms being absorbed by BYU, and it no longer exists. BYU turned out to be not a favorable environment for something like this. And those of you who want to know the reason, it all has to do with the difference between Mormon studies and defending the faith type of Book of Mormon studies in the tradition of the sorts of things that we did in the old days at farms, okay? There's no longer a place on BYU campus for an organization that does exactly what we used to do. We had to go off campus again. But when that merger happened, when BYU took over farms, and that's where the Maxwell Institute came from, and today the Maxwell Institute is doing remarkable stuff in Mormon studies, Jack hung on to that logo, and we resurrected it last year. And that's why Book of Mormon Central now carries that as its brand. Jack and I came in 2012 and presented on the history of the Book of Mormon, or the history of Book of Mormon studies from the Joseph Smith era through 1950. We then came back the following year in 2013, and we presented on the history of Book of Mormon studies from 1951 through to the present. And these are the YouTube videos from those particular presentations. Now, there are already some very good organizations out there doing excellent work on the Book of Mormon. This happens to be one of them, BYU Studies. This happens to be my very favorite, all-time favorite issue of BYU Studies. This is the one that has the all-time most popular article in BYU Studies, which is coming from Edward Kimball, President Kimball's son, talking about the revelation on the priesthood, the 1978 revelation on the priesthood. And then there's some other great stuff in this particular issue as well. But this is simply representative of BYU Studies, and they have published 185 really good pieces since 1959, was when they began. Jack has been the editor-in-chief since 1991, over 25 years. But this is a premier source for really good information about the Book of Mormon. There are more. The Religious Studies Center at BYU has some top-notch scholars associated with it. When we first started farms back in the year 1979, 1990, 1980, 79, 80, the very first thing we did was go to the religion department of BYU. Anybody here interested in doing serious Book of Mormon stuff? And we got blank stares. These were people who did not have much use back in that era, okay? This was very early now. But they were barely absorbing Sidney Sperry's conversion to the two Cumorah theory, okay? That was where most of the professors at BYU were at that particular point in time. And we had some of them that were very disparaging about some sort of enterprise that was going to go out there and try to deal with the culture and the historicity of the text. Fortunately, many things have changed. If you were to go down there and look at the credentials and the bios of the members of the BYU religion faculty today, you will see some very, very impressive people who've come through tremendous programs, have PhDs from remarkable institutions, did their dissertations on very, very good topics. And you will find two Mesoamericanists on that faculty, Kerry Hull and Mark Wright. And they're both very good, and they're both not ashamed to talk about the Book of Mormon. We've come a long way. The Religious Studies Center publishes the Religious Educator, which is primarily aimed at CS personnel, but there's some good stuff that comes from these guys. And they have a very substantial budget. Now, Farms, founded in 1979, Maxwell Institute took them over in 2002, and since that time has continued to do a lot of very good work. They are primarily in the areas of theology, history, reception history. Occasionally they'll go in and do something. They published John Sorensen's book, for instance, back in 2013, Mormon's Codex, which was a major contribution to the field. The Maxwell Institute continues to do very good work, but not quite in the same vein as the sort of thing that gets most of us here in this room excited. Then, 1997, we have this very interesting organization called FAIR that comes to the front. And many of the people here in this room today that are active with BMAF and active with Book of Mormon Central are volunteers with FAIR and have done good work over the years with him. Tyler Livingston, who's the president here, being a prime example. When we began to put Book of Mormon Central together, we basically said, who out there are the really good people who are doing excellent work right now? And we poached a lot of people from FAIR and put them on the staff. Because FAIR's been a terrific training ground for good young scholars to come up and kind of learn the ropes of this whole business of defending the faith. So yeah, we like FAIR a lot. These guys do some really good stuff. They co-publish with us and whatnot. Now, this is the one that is significantly new in just recent memory. And this is Dan Peterson. When he got unceremoniously let go from the MI, Maxwell Institute, he promptly gathers some of the best and the brightest around him and forms Interpreter Foundation, and oh my heavens, what a significant presence they have become in the LDS academic circles. I can't say enough good about Interpreter. I mean, I go there all the time. And many of the people in this room have published with them. And they stay current. And they can peer review something and get it out in press within a matter of days in some cases. They've got a remarkable network. And they're online, and they take advantage of being online in a very significant way. They really do a nice job of using technology appropriately. So you can't really go wrong with Interpreter. Why then was there a need for another organization? With all these great outfits out there doing all this good stuff, why did there need to be a new organization? That's the reason. So Tyler, would you mind coming up and giving your 2 cents worth on why we need to form and tell the story about Lynn Wilson.
It's great to be with everybody today. Is the mic working, both of them? All right, good. So Lynn Wilson and I shared duties at the Stanford Institute some years ago. She's still there with her family. She's a PhD in early Christianity from Marquette. Really passionate teacher, actually a fabulous teacher of the gospel. And she noticed that many students at her time at the Institute were not engaging seriously with the Book of Mormon. We have these tremendous resources. You're familiar with many of them. But students were only getting they were only superficially engaging with the text. And she believed that it would be deeply valuable to form an organization for the modern age, for the millennials, to create, to centralize all the best resources about the Book of Mormon and make them far more accessible, far more engaging for a modern audience. So she and some others connected with Jack Welch, Kirk, and encouraged Jack and Kirk. They brought me on board later to say, let's make this happen. Let's hire people who understand interactive design, website design, those who could write very persuasive 2 or 3 page essays that summarize some of the best scholarship that we have about the Book of Mormon on topics that are of interest to many individuals. So that is kind of a quick summary.
Basically, we saw that young people were leaving the church in large numbers because their questions were not being answered. And those of you that picked up on Elder Ballard's talk, his fireside to the CES people, when was that, about a month or so ago now? February timeframe. And he came down hard on the CES guys and says, we've got to start inoculating our young people. We've got to start being the ones who tell them the facts of life. They've got to hear it from us first. We've got to deal with questions. We can't just sit back and say, let me just bury my testimony. That's not good enough in this day and age. And why? Well, here's why. It's a new world out there. Where are our kids getting their information from? What do they believe? Who do they trust? What has currency? What actually reverberates? What floats their boat? Well, this is where they're getting their information from. And we sometimes don't play very well in that world. In fact, if you go in there and want to start poking around, you're going to find as much anti-stuff as you do pro stuff, sometimes more. And some of that can be very persuasive. And so the idea behind Book of Mormon Central was, let's take all this really great stuff that's been done since Wells Jakeman and Hugh Nibley first came up from Berkeley and first hired on at BYU. Let's take all the great stuff that's been done since that era, and let's make it available and accessible and attractive to the rising generation. That was the reason for Book of Mormon Central. Okay, there's this notion of a center, central. The very first name that we had for this was Grand Central, Book of Mormon Grand Central, like Grand Central Station in downtown New York. All trains lead to Grand Central Station. All roads lead to Rome. This happens to be the route map of Delta at their hub in Atlanta, Georgia. And this is for Dave Acey. We lived in Atlanta for a year, and there was a funny saying they had there. When you die, you have to go through Atlanta. We thought it was important to put together an organization where all roads lead to the Book of Mormon, where the Book of Mormon was the center of the universe, where there was a lot of resource that all congregated right here, and that had a one-stop shop kind of a concept. Because when we saw all the transitions that all the other organizations had gone through, and all the politics, and everything that happens at BYU, stuff drops off the map. There's a really good piece that was written 20 years ago. You can't find it anymore because nobody's hosting it. It just sort of fell through the cracks. And we thought that is not a good thing. We want to have a one-stop shop where people can come and get really good, reliable information about the Book of Mormon. We wanted to create a system where the Book of Mormon was the center of a universe. And that universe consists of all kinds of different things. Taylor, why don't you just sort of, on that graphic, give us some of your thoughts on these pieces that play into this big universe.
So I actually want to cast your minds back about 500 years. There's a guy named William Tyndale. And all this will come into this in a minute. And he famously was interested in translating, and he did, translating the Bible into English. Why? Because at the time, most people did not have access to the Bible in their native language. The Renaissance had just happened. People were translating and getting education. More people were literate. And there was this need for people to have access to the Bible in their own tongue. Although it was actually illegal to do it. You'd have to have permission from the king or the pope to be able to translate into the common tongue. He actually got executed for his effort to make the Bible available to all people who spoke English. And here's what he said. This is what was reported that he said when he was challenged for having translated the Bible into English. If God spare my life, ere many years pass, I will cause a boy that drive the plow shall know more of the scriptures than thou dost. And he says this to the King of England. And of course, we think of Joseph Smith, the plowshare, who came to know more about the Bible than the King of England.
And that happens to come from an article that this man wrote in the Deseret News. He's one of the Deseret News' really terrific columnists. And look for Taylor Halverson in the Deseret News on a regular basis. And his modern Tyndale moment is what he's just quoting from.
So if you need soporific moments, that's where to go. So he was executed. And what's interesting is all of us now today, 500 years later, we all have access to the English translation of the Bible if we so choose. In fact, most of us who have smart devices, would have access to hundreds of translations. And it's not that big of a deal anymore. No, that Tyndale moment has been won for centuries. And so we're not motivated anymore, typically in the modern West, to get the Bible in the hands of people. Sure, that still matters in certain areas of the world where we're trying to increase literacy or access to the Bible or Book of Mormon. But we're actually in what I would call a new Tyndale moment. So we all have access to the Bible, we all have access to the Book of Mormon, but how do we raise scriptural literacy? It's not just enough to have the words. We also actually have to know where are all the resources that actually can inform our understanding. Where's the training for the study skills, the engagement with the text? And so Book of Mormon Central, we're trying to contribute to this part of the conversation, to this new Tyndale moment, where we build a community that is surrounded with scholarship, the very best art about the Book of Mormon, with the intention that it draws people closer to Christ. And the new Tyndale moment is the opportunity to transform the world, just like the Tyndale moment 500 years ago transformed the world, actually laid the groundwork for the Reformation that eventually laid the groundwork for the Restoration.
Mm-hmm. Some of the key parts of this ecosystem, this infrastructure, this universe, obviously scholarship. There's got to be good scholarship. We've got to have our sources check out. The footnotes must in fact be relevant. We must be citing good sources. We must be going to people and looking for direction from people who have credentials in their area of interest. It's precisely what Elder Ballard said here in February to the CES personnel. Look to the experts in the church, the faithful scholars in the church. Look to them for the answers. But in addition, there's a whole piece here called communication. And we at Book of Mormon Central are engaged in the business of communicating. And as you see here in a few minutes, that we roll out exactly what we do and how we do it, you'll see that much of our effort is not coming from research, it's not coming from scholarship. There are plenty of academic venues out there. A good person like a Brant Gardner, or some of this stuff that just appeared here over the weekend from Jeff Lindsay and Warren Aston coming together to try to refute some of the stuff the antis have come up with about Nahum and Arabia and the Karkal-Foot bountiful correlation and so forth. There are very good academic publishing venues right now, and we showed you those just a few minutes ago. What has been lacking has been the ability to communicate all this really good scholarship to a very broad audience. And that's how come our kids are leaving the church, because they go and the communication mediums are failing them. They're not seeing the answers. They're not being able to go in there and discover the answers very quickly using the sorts of tools with which they're familiar. Faith, obviously, is a big part of this. We've got to have faithful scholarship. We've got to have devotional. We've got to have people that bear their testimony. We need to have folks whose lives have been changed by the Book of Mormon who are willing to stand up and say, I love this book and here's why. This book's important for my kids, and this is the reason why I want my kids to be able to be engaged with this text. We think art is very important. You're seeing up here the beginnings of what will be a significant collection of Book of Mormon art at some point in time. And how we think it's important to go out there and encourage young artists. And we'll show you in a few minutes how we've done that. But it's also important to form a sense of community. There needs to be, at this day and age, in order for social media, and the social is the important part there, because we had media for my entire lifetime. But this whole social aspect of the media is what's new and different and exciting. There needs to be communities that form around the Book of Mormon, and we're in the process of trying to make that happen. All right, so what does Book of Mormon Central do? Well, the very first thing that we put together was an archive. And what's kind of the idea behind the archive, Taylor?
Well, for centuries, if you wanted to have access to the very best knowledge, you'd create a library. And in the modern age, it's interesting. I work within the library building at BYU, and for years they've had dwindling foot traffic to the library. And partly because the BYU library has been so successful in making so many of their materials available online, why would you walk to the library when you could actually just get it on your computer or your other device? Now, certainly there are advantages of the joy of walking through the stacks and making unexpected discoveries. But there's incredible knowledge about the Book of Mormon that's been dispersed. Our idea is that if we can have it in a digitally, freely available archive, it's permanently there and accessible to any interested individual. And we'll talk in a minute about how the archive lays the foundation for other tools for accessibility to Book of Mormon knowledge.
So we got sick and tired of going in, Jack, saying, I wrote this piece back in 1983, and it used to be prominently displayed on the internet, and it's no longer there. I can't find it. Where'd it go? And in some cases, we didn't even have a hard copy. And we're going back there trying to reconstruct some fairly serious Book of Mormon scholarship, and we could not find the copy in the filing cabinet, and who knows where it went in cyberspace. Well, the Book of Mormon Central Archive is designed to outlive all of us in this room. It's being hosted on the Google Cloud. We don't necessarily trust BYU to keep the lights on, but we trust Google to keep the lights on. And it's being hosted in a professional environment, and it's being curated. And the archivist that's in charge of all this, Jared Riddick right here. He's the Book of Mormon Central archivist. You'll notice that right up here at the top, upper left-hand corner, it says, okay, these are the most popular items. So you go right there to the archive, and these are the items that are trending right now, where the traffic is coming from. Over the right-hand side, this is the order of accession into the archive. This is the date and time that actually got posted. And then down below, there's a whole bunch of ways to go find it. Terrific search, and then the ability to go search by date, by author, and by type. And the interesting thing about the Book of Mormon Central Archive is it's not just text. We have videos, we have audio, we have artwork, we have charts, we have a lot of interesting stuff. So this happens to be, for instance, the Aaron, son of Mosiah, one of the 4 sons of Mosiah that went on the mission. This is James Fulmer, who's a terrific artist, and he's just happened to make it his mission to go through and try to get art for virtually every single person within the Book of Mormon. And all of James Fulmer's stuff is in the Book of Mormon Central Archive. This is an interview with Warren Aston. This is the way it's presented to you in the Book of Mormon Central Archive. This interview was filmed. Neil Rapley was the interviewer, and this was filmed, when was this? Was it January? December? I don't recall exactly, but this has been when we were very first getting going, one of the very first things we put up in the archive. And Warren happened to be here from Australia. And we thought, this is an important man. He spent 30 years doing a serious Book of Mormon exploration and research, and has pretty much defined the genre as far as the Old World route was concerned. And so we thought it was important to get his story down. And so we interviewed him. It's on video. This happens to be the audio. And there's a professionally created transcript for the audio. So I'll show you right here. I'll give you just a little hint of what the audio sounds like as you go to the Book of Mormon Central Archive and click on play.
All right, I was thinking to get started, we'd like to just maybe have you tell the story a little bit. How did you first get involved with Book of Mormon research and doing research in the Arabian Peninsula specifically?
I had already developed a very keen interest in the Middle East generally.
Okay.
And that was sparked by seeing a movie that we were all told not to go see when it came out, Jesus Christ Superstar. So you'll probably want to edit that. But that came out, I think, in 74, 73, 74, and I was just hypnotized by the scenery, you know, in combination with the music, and I still regard it personally as a absolutely inspiring film. You know, once you understand its perspective. But anyway, that got me hooked, and I began making plans to go.
If a young person goes to find some material from Warren Aston, by the way, he's published a terrific book here recently called Lehi and Sariah in Arabia. It's an expensive book, but highly recommended. If a young person goes and wants to read some Warren Aston, they may find this particular interview doing their Google search, and they'll then be able to go back here and find the backstory, because this tells the story of the personal price this man paid for 30 years to go dozens of times into a rather hostile environment and go learn some things about the Book of Mormon. We think this is an important piece of the archivist function of documenting what's going on in the world of Book of Mormon studies. All right, that was the archive. Now, these are KnoWhys. The term KnoWhy is a gimmicky term. We coined it out of whole cloth. We said it will come to mean what it comes to mean over time as we do our work well. And a KnoWhy is a short essay. It's published frequently. Up to this point, we've been publishing 5 days a week. That may be too aggressive. We may not be able to sustain that pace, but nonetheless, KnoWhys will appear frequently. And it's a short essay, about 1,000 words. It's well documented. It's well edited. It's illustrated. It has footnotes. And this is what it looks like on the actual website itself. And now we're going to walk you through all the various things that happen to a KnoWhy, from the time that it first gets conceived until the time that it's actually published in all the various venues. And we start off with a question right up there at the top. What do the authors of the small plate? Why do the authors of the small plates follow a pattern? We try to focus on why questions whenever possible. It's not always possible. Sometimes we have to have who, what, where, when questions. But why questions really tend to drive people into the text with a greater level of engagement. You'll notice there's a number there. We just published, Neil, where are you? What number did we just publish? I think it was 79 we're up to. Okay, so yesterday, Friday's KnoWhy was number 79. We began publishing on January 1st of 2016. We will be publishing KnoWhys for a good many years. It'll be many years. There is that much good stuff to say about the Book of Mormon. We are taking little tiny pieces of the Book of Mormon, okay? These are not big, broad brush, big picture types of essays. These are little, small points, but points that we find to be significant and upon which good scholarship has been done, and where we can go and find some good references and some good illustrative material. And we will be publishing KnoWhys into the thousands. It would not surprise me for us to get into 2,000 and 3,000 and 4,000 KnoWhys before we're done. And that very fact, if each one of these is a little gold brick that we're putting into the vault in Fort Knox, we are gradually building an incredible repository of glorious insights into this magnificent Nephite text. That's what the KnoWhys are all about. So that's what it looks like on the web. And then you scroll down on the page, and now you start seeing some interesting stuff here. So this right over here, for instance, this little guy right there, that is a video. You click on it, you're going to hear some video. This right over here is a podcast. And you go over and click on that, you're going to be able to hear the audio. We have a professional narrator who's actually narrating the text of the KnoWhy. Question?
Now, these KnoWhys, will they be categorized so it's easy to find them if you do a search?
No, we haven't got that far yet. Oh. We're just barely publishing the first 79 KnoWhys up to this point in time. And our organizing principle during 2016 has been the text itself. So our initial goal was to have one KnoWhy for every chapter in the text. We haven't quite made that, but we've come close. And so we're just following through. We're right now about in the book of Jacob and the small books and getting into Mosiah.
We do have a feature on our website that's called Personal Study, and if you click on there, all of our KnoWhys, and actually even archive items that are associated particularly with gospel doctrine lessons are linked. So if you're teaching...
We'll get that in just a minute.
Okay, so I'm jumping ahead.
Part of the presentation, yeah.
Okay, that would answer the question.
So the real question is, okay, after I have all of these gold bricks in Fort Knox, how do I find this stuff? Because there's going to be thousands of them. We're not there yet. There's still work to be done. But the good news is that I own a tech company. I employ lots of very, very smart people. And one of those very smart people is tech support to Book of Mormon Central. And so far, he's managed to pull off everything that Jasmine and I have asked him to do. And when the time comes and we say, okay, it's time to make searching all this glorious repository of wonderful information called KnoWhys, it's time to go out there and make this easier and have themes and categories and organize it in such a way that you can navigate through here and find stuff. The answer will be yes. We'll get that done. So I'm trying to just show you sort of the range of things that come into a KnoWhy. You'll notice a chart down here. Lots of charts that come in. Lots of graphics taking place. And this is the podcast. This is hosted on SoundCloud, and here's what it actually sounds like.
And I, Jacob, saw that I must soon go down to my grave. Wherefore I said unto my son Enos, Take these plates. And I told him the things which my brother Nephi had commanded me, and he promised obedience unto the commands. Jacob chapter 7, verse 27. Hey listeners, this is Nick from Book of Mormon Central, and today's podcast addresses the question, why do the authors on the small plates follow a pattern? In 1984, John W. Welch observed that after Jacob, some of the keepers of the small plates do not appear eager to write, nor do they seem to have much to say. While it is popular to see them as lazy or negligent, Welch continued, it is interesting, however, that they manifest a strong sense of duty about writing what little they do. Jacob 1 documents the mandate Nephi gave to his brother Jacob, and Jacob states that he passed this same commandment on to his son Enos. Welch delineates 7 obligations that can be found in Nephi's instructions. First, a record is to be kept on the small plates by way of commandment. Second, the record must be personally written.
Very, very small point, but an important point. Why did they write so little? Well, that's not really the question. The question is, what did they write? And what are the patterns we can see in what they did write? And we have a know why about that, and we've got a professional narrator in here who's trying to make that palatable to people. And we do really like it when women send us back notes and say, you know what, love your podcasts, take it to the gym every single morning, and it gets me going on the treadmill. So we are having some effect. We then do something entirely unprecedented in the history of the Mormon Church in the dispensation of the fullness of times. Never even been attempted before. We produce a video with every KnoWhy. So far, that's been 5 days a week. This is what they look like.
After Nephi's death, the next few scriptural authors didn't seem particularly interested in writing much. Some, like Chemish and Abinadom, only wrote a few verses. Considering how much work engraving the plates was, why would they do it at all if they didn't care? They explained that they were told by their fathers to preserve the record of their people and pass it on to the next generation, as commanded by Nephi. In fact, their writings follow a pattern illustrating their adherence to Nephi's instructions. Although these men are sometimes dismissed as apathetic, seeing their writings as faithful adherence to commandment helps readers appreciate the small yet real offerings of faith contained in the books of Jacob, Enos, Jerem, and Omni. And now you know why.
That happens to be Amanda Scott, the voice of BYU TV. She's one of she's our female narrator for the KnoWhys. We now have a repository of these videos. This is not the complete KnoWhy. The complete KnoWhy is 1,000 words, okay, with footnotes and so forth. But this is a script-written condensation, an abridgment, what people in the media business call a snackable, that someone can go and consume very quickly. We then go from the what portion of the KnoWhy to the why portion of the KnoWhy. So here's what we think you may want to know about the Book of Mormon, and here's why we think it's important. And the why portion tends to focus more on the application for our lives, or on why it's significant in the big picture of the Book of Mormon as a text. We then go down and have further reading, and of course the footnotes. That is the basic KnoWhy itself. We then get down to how we set it out, and one of the ways is by email. So a PDF is available to go out every single day to our subscriber base. And what do we have right now, Jared, in our subscriber base?
About 2,500.
All right, so we're looking at about 2,500 people that are once a day get an email from Book of Mormon Central right now with that PDF attached. And that's how you actually go on the site and subscribe. We also, however, put it up on Facebook, and it turns out that Facebook drives more traffic for more Mormon content than the web itself or than a lot of other particular types of publication venues. So we've tried to establish a significant Facebook presence. The Facebook does, in fact, have videos on it. It doesn't reproduce the entire text of the KnoWhy. It has a teaser. It goes in and says, here's some interesting stuff that we just published a KnoWhy about. Click here to go find more. And there's a little abbreviated URL link that takes you over to the web page. So we're always trying to drive traffic back to our web page. But nonetheless, that's what our Facebook presence looks like. And then this is, this looks like YouTube. This is the actual YouTube channel. And we had an interesting story of what happened to us on YouTube. Tell a story about our YouTube fiasco.
Well, we went live January 1st, and 30 minutes after we went live, our YouTube channel got shut down. We're not exactly sure what happened. We thought maybe it was antis, maybe a technical glitch, but some miraculous interactions a few weeks later, we discovered some individuals inside the YouTube organization that helped us reverse this, but we were locked out of this account for several weeks, and it was quite a bother to us, but we're back live now.
So this is what you'll see if you go to our YouTube channel. You'll see video after video after video. And as I said before, we have 79 of them in the bank right now. There will be thousands before we're done. Little snippets of well-illustrated, professionally recorded, nicely done, well-communicated insights into what's going on in the Book of Mormon. All right, we go from there to Instagram. And that's what we look like on Instagram. These are called memes. They're not very substantive, but that's the nature of Instagram. We've tried to tailor the content to the nature of the social media venue in which show we're publishing. This is what we look like on Pinterest. And we actually get quite a few repins for this stuff. This is what we look like on Google+. You'll notice a consistent theme out here. That happens to be Trinity College Dublin, if you're wondering where all those books and that really cool arched library come from and so forth. And this is what we look like on Twitter, was just a minute ago. This is Tumblr, our presence there. And now we go into another portion of what this is all about. It turns out that Wikipedia is a primary source of information on virtually anything worth looking up. So we said, how come there's not a Wikipedia of the Book of Mormon? There should be, and there now is. It's called Notes. It's Book of Mormon Central Notes. We're just sort of learning the ropes. Media Wiki, which is the software product that sits behind Wikipedia, is a complex universe in and of itself. And we're gradually plumbing the depths of that, getting so we're really good, knowing how to do it. These are some of the categories, some of the articles that are up there right now. There will be many, many thousands of articles up here in this wiki before we're done. Furthermore, as something happens, changes, as we got a new source, something becomes obsolete, there's a better interpretation, there's now a consensus beginning to develop, we can go change the wiki at the drop of a hat, and bingo, we're now out there publishing the latest and most reliable stuff. We view the notes, the wiki about the Book of Mormon as kind of an online encyclopedia of the Book of Mormon. Here's one example. This happens to be the article on Zedekiah. That's what it looks like right now. We'll soon begin to have illustrations come into here, little audio clips and whatnot. This will be a very rich text kind of environment for people to go in and hopefully find answers to questions. This is all about, okay, you got a question, go discover the answer for yourself. Here's some good stuff that's been done on it. We have sources down at the bottom. If Mark Wright put something terrific, and we put up in the notes here, it says Mark Wright, this is the source that it came from. Brant Gardner, here's the source it came from, that type of thing. It's a pretty comprehensive little deal. Then, we sponsored on March 26th. Now, what was important about March 26th?
My anniversary.
Oh, yes.
No.
Very important.
Luckily, my wife's not here because that's not our anniversary. That was the day the Book of Mormon went public for sale in 1830.
So, March 26th,
Did I get that right?
Yeah, was the very first day that it became available to the public. So we said, okay, let's make March 26th International Day of the Book of Mormon. The evangelicals go out there and have all kinds of fun with the International Day of the Bible. How come the Book of Mormon doesn't have a similar stature? Well, so we did it. And this was, we put up as a page on our website right over here. And here's some of the cool stuff that we did. This is a counter. That counter is actually live right there. It sits, this one's not because it's a PowerPoint. But on the web, that thing goes in there and it clicks every 5.922 seconds because that's how often a new copy of the Book of Mormon rolls off the press. And those numbers are coming straight from the LDS Press and the Scripture Publication folks. We then go in here and we put on a fireside. And that fireside's now, if you go to the Book of Mormon Central archive, you can see that fireside. Because we're not going to go and do something and not get it on video and not put the video up on the web and not make it available for lots and lots of people to see forever and ever. So Jack Welch's presentation, this fireside on temples in the Book of Mormon, was viewed by about 175 people in the room, all right? It'll be viewed by thousands before it finishes its run up on the internet and continue to do some good. And these are fairly attractive formats in which that's going out. We had a terrific piece in there by David Larson on intertextuality between the Book of Mormon and the Psalms and how that played out in the kind of a Templar environment. And that's a wonderful presentation now that's out there on the internet forever. So that was part of it. We also had a, where was I? Okay, this right here was the art contest. We sponsored an art contest. Anybody out there want to go do some Book of Mormon art? Send it in. Here's your deadline. There's a submission portal on Book of Mormon Central. Just go in here and answer a few questions, go through a little CAPTCHA thing, and verify that you have intellectual property and you have the rights to submit this, and click. You just uploaded something to Book of Mormon Central. We may not do anything with it. It may not meet our standards. But nonetheless, it's a crowdsourced version of getting submissions coming in, and that's the way we ran the art contest. We said, send us some art. And we set out some prizes. We paid $500 for the top piece of art, and $350 for the number 2, and so forth. Okay, that was David Larson giving his Psalms, Book of Mormon intertextual piece, and that's what the video looks like. And look how cool this video is. You've got 3 panels here. There's Book of Mormon Central up there with our temples video. This happened to be done on the very day that the Provo City Temple was dedicated. That's how come we did the temples theme. And there's this little video inset. That's the camera rolling. When you see the video of this presentation right now, you'll see it in this kind of a format. And there Taylor and I will be right there with the camera rolling, okay? It's a live video. But this is going to be the PowerPoint right there. And so what you're seeing up on this screen, that's what will be in that particular panel. We like this tripartite panel vision as far as a way to present a video of a presentation similar to the one that you're experiencing here today. This was our first place art winner. This happens to be a fellow up in Salt Lake. Name is Matthew Warren. He calls this Other Sheep. We had 4 panels of experts, all of whom came together and gave us separate results, and all 4 panels rated this either number 1 or number 2. So this was our unanimous number 1 pick. This guy got a check for $500. This one is David Hales, who's a prolific Book of Mormon artist and has a real edginess to his art. This one he calls The Finger of God. And our judging panels came up with, thought that was the second place overall. Now this one's pretty unique. This is a fellow named Mike Wallace down in Mesa, Arizona, and he spent 5 years building the ultimate Liahona. This is done with cast bronze. It's an incredible piece, extraordinarily detailed. You'll see more of this because every once in a while we're going to have to represent the Liahona graphically somewhere in some of the publications that we're doing. This is going to be a really good option for us to go to have something to show. We then had gospel doctrine teachers all over the church coming to us and asking, all right, we need resources to go and follow along. And there already were some pretty good resources on the web for a gospel doctrine teacher or a student in a gospel doctrine class to follow along with the curriculum this year. But Jasmine, where are you? All right back there in the back. This is Jasmine Jimenez who's done this, and she's remarkable. This is her version of bringing in content from around the web that is relevant to gospel doctrine lessons, and it's all up there under what we call lessons in personal study, organized according to the gospel doctrine for that week. Now, this is a brand new feature, just been up for a few days. We think it's important to have news. Why is news important?
Because we're excited about the latest, greatest things. Is that the right answer?
Everybody wants the latest stuff, right? Well, so what's the very latest stuff in the world of the Book of Mormon? Well, we don't know. We need you to tell us. I mean, as you're out there scouring the world and come up with a really cool feature for the news, Doug Christensen, where are you? Okay, this is Doug Christensen. He's the news editor, all right? He's the guy you get this news to. And this is his bailiwick. And we're going to publish now for the next foreseeable future on a pretty regular basis all the exciting stuff. If there's a PhD dissertation that's done at Tulane University and it has some relevance to what we think might be some Book of Mormon connections, it's going to go up on the news. We want to know about somebody who's going to lead a tour somewhere that's a good person, knows their stuff, and going into some of the right places. We'll go ahead and advertise right here on the news. Question?
I think I'm somewhat social media savvy, but at the same time, it just seems like a lot to swallow. Like, what's keeping my attention as a youth, or, I mean, I'm a little older than a youth, but at the same time, I'm just concerned about, you know, why would a youth come to the website, and what's keeping their attention on the website?
That's a very good question, and we don't know the answer yet. The question was, why do I care as a young person? Because you're overloading me with scholarly content. And yeah, we have a sense that maybe we are overloading, that maybe there's more here than somebody can keep up with. But let me tell you what we are doing. Taylor and I just went a few days ago to LDS Living, which is owned by Deseret Book. We went to their bullpen, which is overlooking the temple. And these people have their pulse on the LDS marketplace. Now, not necessarily the kids, okay, because there's not, that's a whole different ballgame to try to reach down to younger levels. But for sure, as far as social media, as far as Facebook, as far as hashtags, as far as trending news and so forth, LDS Living, I believe is probably the best organization on the planet for monitoring on a minute-by-minute basis the LDS marketplace. We learned a lot from those guys.
What we want to do is partner with them and hear from them what the audience is interested in. And actually, I'll add to that, we are working pretty extensively with experts at BYU in the fields of user experience design, design thinking, so forth, about how do we actually create experiences here that are just as engaging or more than kids might find on other media devices. That's our intent, but that's going to take a while to get to that design.
I will give you a few hints of coming attractions. There are 9 YouTubers, LDS YouTubers, who have a significant following around the world. One of those is Alex Boye. He was in our staff meeting last Tuesday morning. You can imagine what we were talking about. Hoverboards, sneakers, Justin Bieber, that kind of stuff. All right. How do we mix? I mean, this is unprecedented. No one's ever tried to do this before, to take the world of scholarship and the world of communication. Remember that graphic I showed you a bit ago? We're trying to bring these worlds together, a sense of community. The kids are going to be part of it. We want our kids and grandkids to grow up loving the Book of Mormon like we do. Anyway, there's some 3D stuff, some virtual reality stuff. Keep tuned. All this is coming into play. Question?
I spent 35 years in my career teaching the youth for CES. And the youth are inundated by anti-Mormon stuff. They've got volumes and volumes of stuff. And those kids need a resource. The kids that are looking at this nonsense that's out there need some answers, and that's what you're providing. Not every kid's going to be interested in this, but the ones that like to dig in the negatives should have an alternative to dig into
the kids who are experiencing faith crises and ended up immersing themselves in online anti-Mormon literature, this is a gold mine for them. And that's why I say every day, brick by brick, we're building that stockpile at Fort Knox. All right. Yes.
indicators, will they pop up pretty quick when he starts searching?
It depends on what he searches for. If you go search for Book of Mormon, we're still way down the list because we're still a relatively minor presence out there. If you search Facebook Book of Mormon, we're in the top 3 as of right now. And we are beginning to drive some traffic. We will get to a position where we'll be a force to be reckoned with in the media market. We've had, just to give you an idea, in the first 90 days of our operation through the end of March, we did have over 500,000 impressions on our webpage, just to give you one small metric. Okay.
Would you please repeat the question or tell us what they're saying? We can't hear what they're saying, so we don't know
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Yeah, we should be doing that. We're about out of time, Tyler.
If you have any questions, just raise your hand. We'll give you a card. That way we can read it up front so everybody can hear.
Okay, that's really the system we hope to put in place. If you've got a question, here's you got a couple of guys walking around here with cards. Just grab a card. We'll take any question you've got.
Aren't those the donation slips?
Oh, donation slips?
Is that what that is?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Make sure you put your member record number on there. All right. This is the Royal Skousen text of the Book of Mormon. This is online for free. It cost us months and significant money to go license this, but we're an official licensee of Yale University Press, and there's Royal text. This is the heart and soul of Book of Mormon Central. This is the reason why everything exists. Everything I'm showing up to this point that Taylor and I have been talking about is preliminary to this. This is the interactive text. Taylor, take it away.
So the idea is that in the modern age, you take a Wikipedia page or any document that's been marked up, we can do that with the Book of Mormon. And we have all these tremendous resources. Our vision is to take all the very best resources about the Book of Mormon and contextually tag them into an electronic version of the text. So as you're reading, you can click on any word or phrase or verse and have available all of the valuable, useful resources about those items. Do you want me to say more?
Yeah, well, let's see how we're doing on time. We need to allow people to ask some questions, so let's wrap up. The interactive text on my iPad, on my iPhone, on my Samsung Galaxy, I have at my fingertips not only the text of the Book of Mormon, and by the way, Book of Mormon Central is now officially the first licensee of the LDS 2013 text outside of the church itself. We intend to give you the text with a whole bunch of really neat enrichment material, including audio, video, and all other visuals, JPEGs, and so forth, in the same way that the evangelicals have had for a number of years with the Bible. We think the Book of Mormon deserves this. And we think that this is going to be one of the ways that kids are going to warm up to this thing, that they'll have a very rich media environment circulated around the text itself with curation. It's got to be good stuff. It's got to pass muster. It's got to be stuff that actually works. These have to be good sources. Work that's been done by people that are source critical in the way that they approach it. But this interactive text is really quite something. And it'll take us years. But we have begun. In fact, Taylor and I just hired the first two guys that are working on the prototype just a few days ago. And as soon as we get a prototype done and vetted, and the vetting process means bringing in hundreds of people to play with it and look at it and give us feedback, and we've got this feedback loop in place. Once we have a model of the web app, then we're going to go out and get the web app developed itself, and then the content starts coming on stream. So we're serious. This will be a multi-million-dollar project. This thing is going to take years to do, but we think the interactive text is worth doing. We think it's the way that our grandkids will probably read the Book of Mormon. All right. Tyler, what do you want to do? Should we just take a few questions? Do we have any? Ready to go? Questions and answers?
I'm just wondering, will you have an app that you can download?
Okay, the question is, will there be an app? And the answer is yes. We're not there yet, but definitely on the radar. Next question. Okay, right over here.
On that last statement that you said that you tag, were you referring to you're going to tag the Book of Mormon itself through LDS library that we're currently
No,
familiar with?
no. This will be through Book of Mormon Central. Repeat the question. Oh, the question was, will you be able to download through the LDS library that you currently have? Those of us that actually read the scriptures on our smart devices right now, we go through the LDS Gospel Library. And no, that's not where it's going to be delivered. That's church. We're not church. Okay? You'll go to Book of Mormon Central, download the app, and then it'll show up on your phone. And ours will be way cooler than the church's because it's got all this fun stuff. Okay? Question.
Is Book of Mormon Central being referred to the CES people so that it becomes a resource for them?
We have lots and lots of CES people participating with us right now.
But
In fact,
not from CES.
they're
people that know about it rather than
two of the BYU people most associated with church curriculum, CES, and so forth are Jack Welch and Taylor Halverson.
That'll work.
Yeah, we're there. Tom Wayment, we're there. All right, here's some questions.
Is Book of Mormon Central doing search engine optimization? And I don't know if we are.
Not yet.
Not
We're just
officially.
getting the content out for right now.
I have a question about what's on each circle. So at the top we have art. As you go around the circle, it's art, music, dictionaries, gazetteer and maps, encyclopedia, literary structures, editions and translations. These are all things that we would want to tag into the Book of Mormon, plus many others, that as you're reading, if you want to see the chiasmus visually displayed, click a button and boom, there it all is. What will the relationship be between Book of Mormon Central and BMAF?
We're going to have Tyler Livingston come up in just a few minutes and tell you that.
Okay. You're still working on the KnoWhys. Is the library of articles and essays on Book of Mormon topics mostly current? So if I understand this question, are we working with current scholarship? That's our intention, is to use the best scholarship, the most up-to-date, the most relevant.
But the answer really is no. The archive is not totally current.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And the reason is because if Brant Gardner publishes a wonderful piece with Cofford Books, I can't put that in the archive yet, okay? I may never be able to. It depends on permission. We are very, very conscious of intellectual property rights, okay? We only put stuff up with permission. We have zero permission from Deseret Book as of right now. They're hardcore when it comes to protecting copyright. We may never have anything from Deseret Book in the archive. We're going to go with the best stuff we can get, but it all has to come through legal channels.
Okay. What kind of editorial decisions do you make on which articles to make available? Will Heartlander-type articles be included, and who makes these decisions?
All right, that's a very good point. We have a staff meeting on Tuesdays, and we sometimes talk about controversial articles. Is Heartland material in the archive? The answer is yes. We have 2 articles in there by Jonathan Neville, both of which are pretty good. And those of you that think that Joseph Smith wrote the Times and Seasons editorials published in 1842 need to go check out Neville's latest article in there called Try the Spirits. But nonetheless, they were pretty good because they're church history, okay? There's some pretty decent stuff. Would I ever put anything from Wayne May out there? No, never. Would I ever put anything from Rod Melham out there? No, never. They simply do not rise to the level of credibility that we require. But will we take stuff from the Rosenballs on Baja? Absolutely, because they have some of the very best life science material that's been done on the Book of Mormon. Is associated with that particular theory. Would we take some stuff from South America? Heavens, yes. You're going to hear some great stuff from South America in a little bit when Brian Stubbs comes up here, and he's come up with some remarkable things that have implications down into there. Do we believe that, just like Mark Wright said, Heartland as hinterland? Yes, we absolutely do. Do we believe there was Mesoamerican connection into North America? We absolutely do. Garth Norman just got back from the Southeast. SAA this year was in Florida. And Garth took the time to go investigate an awful lot of stuff there in Georgia and the Florida area and so forth, and went with state archaeologists out there, checked out some sites. There's no question. Mesoamerica got up there. Much of it was in the post-classic, but nonetheless, there's a lot of stuff going on. This is a very, very large picture. The Book of Mormon says it's not even a 100th part. There's a lot going on this continent. So we have an official policy about geography that's up on the site. You go to the Book of Mormon Central site and go click up there on About. You'll see the policy page. And our policy on geography is we take all comers. We take good material from any source. Our criteria for good material is, number one, it sheds a bright light on the Book of Mormon itself. It gives some insight into the Book of Mormon. That's what we care about. Number two, in our hierarchy of evidence, the text is primary. If I've got something that a contemporary of Joseph Smith said, and I've got something that Mormon or Moroni wrote, which one is going to take precedence? In our world, the text is primary. The next thing that we say is we favor sources that come from people who know what they're talking about, that have credentials in their area of interest. And the fourth thing that we say is we favor sources that have been published by reputable presses, where there's been some sort of quality control on the publication process itself. And then we say, in our collective experience, material from Mesoamerica tends to satisfy these criteria more frequently than those from other areas. And that's the official position right now. But we hope that consensus does emerge at some point within the LDS Church. Now, there was one person here that had a question that said, okay, the whole Heartland Mesoamerican thing is driving kids out of the church today, and it absolutely is. The fact that there's such a strong division between these camps, and it is so vociferous, and there's the level of rhetoric has reached certain levels. Trust me, people at very high levels are very well aware of this, and some very important things are happening to try to lower the level of contention and to try to make some more fraternal relations going on here. But still, a spade's a spade. We're going to call them like we see them. And for the time being, it took place in Mesoamerica, unless you can prove it otherwise.
Are there plans to make Book of Mormon Central available in other languages, namely Spanish for Spanish-speaking members? We actually don't have translation services, but we have been in conversation with the More Good Foundation. They have quite an operation to make content available to a number of markets, and we're exploring and experimenting there. So currently no, but we hope to be able to have something in the future. How are you finding Book of Mormon Central volunteers? We just go on the street and ask people. We don't do that. We invite in places like this. We actually have a vetting process. We put people through the ringer to see how serious they are.
Do you want to help us? Here's what we need help with.
You are ready for everything. It's a lot of stuff. Should I start reading it
Yeah,
off?
just let them know.
We could use librarians, digital scanning technology, researchers, writers, editors, reviewing, script writing, illustrating, graphics and layout, narration, audio engineering, video production, memes, social media publishing, internationalization, fundraising, executive secretary. Anybody looking for a great work opportunity? Project management, user experience design, audience research, learning technology, web design, web development, mobile development, strategic development, online community promotion, analytics, and public speaking.
And if you have skills in the Adobe Creative Suite, Drupal as a content manager, or MediaWiki, we're particularly interested in those kinds of skills. Bottom line, do tens of millions of young people in China and India deserve the chance to read the Book of Mormon and understand it well?
Yes.
How come they're not doing it right now?
Because you're not there yet.
Because we ain't there yet. But we're going to try to get there, brothers and sisters. God bless the Book of Mormon. And let's all go see if we make something of this.
Amen.